This is an Art Geek production, and I'm Ron Schira. And we are here at the Jewish Community Center of Reading with Barbara Thun, who is having a solo exhibit inside of the Fromm Gallery for the month of November here. And we'll speak with Barbara. Speak a little bit about your works here. We're going to take a look around here.
Basically, I've always been interested in the natural world, and more recently, of course, the relationship of man to the natural world. So some of the work on this wall, in fact, all of the work on this wall, has to do with both the power and the beauty of the natural world. This first piece here is, I started doing drawings of what's underneath the ground. You can see a horizon here. And this is called Generations because I wanted to convey the idea of all that energy and power underneath the ground waiting to come forward. Really about drought. We have very rich fields here, and a storm clouds up there, and then this very parched hill with a figure almost invisible, transparent on the hill.
Somewhat embedded.
Embedded, yes. And in fact, I did do a whole series of figures embedded in the land, trying to show the need that man has always had. This is over here. Actually done oil paint on gesso board, and I have done many different types of grasses. Grasses seem to be very much alive and quirky in many ways, so these three pieces have to do with fields. This one is actually called fields because of the different textures and colors having to do with the fields, the farming fields. This one is called grasses, but it has a hidden element in it. If you can see the square inside of it, almost a mystery there. This one is called place because it's very definitely a place.
Yeah, I absolutely adore these three pieces. They're really nice.
The next one brings an element of not just mystery, but almost foreboding to it, because this is probably closest to a winter field, and there is a deep, rectangular, almost grave-like a hole in the field. At the same time, I tried to make it beautiful, so it's not entirely. The next one is called Genesis, and there again it is seed-like or pod-like, and also at the same time almost as though we were looking at a part of the universe. And that connectedness, again, grass is up in here, the connectedness of all mystery and water painting that I did. Here again you can see it's dense, it has a feeling of power and again threat or foreboding. The sky is kind of an acid yellow, which also contributes to that feeling of our small, quick paintings I did of the ocean at night, with faint parts being lit by whatever sky is.
It's very minimal.
Yes. I actually tend to be more minimal. You would never know it by looking at this show. But I am attracted to the more minimal
I am too. I like
renditions.
Yeah, these are very nice.
Called When Reality Chases Dreams, and basically you look at it and you think, what is this? What can it mean? Because we have the reality of a tree limb, but we have sort of the unreality of a waterfall coming over the tree limb from where we don't know. And the viewer can't really get into the space in between the two waterfalls. And underneath it all is again a very turbulent water elements. River pictures really were stimulated by the whole Hurricane Katrina mess. This one I made a very rich underlying field with reds and yellows, and then began to layer more and more and more. And then also put the figure of a female in the land with a sort of a chasm going down through the body, also having water in it, but overall is water. So it's as though the water has crept up over the land and is lying on top. And here my thought was the horizontal racing of the water this way, as though you were riding along it, but the threat of the water, the power of the water, comes from the idea of it's also falling down over you, and even behind it is something darker and more threatening in the sense of its volume. It's almost like a three-dimensional cube of water. And I'm always, in all of these...
Water flowing over water.
Yeah. And in all of these, it has to do with the power and the beauty of water and how connected we are to it for many, many different reasons. It's a gift. And it's very simple, a little minimalistic, you might say. I started out with the idea of a bird's nest and water coming out of the bird's nest. And it became a little bit more solidified than that, so it could even be a half of a world or whatever, but the water is streaming over the edges down into, again, a very dark, deep
different piece here. This is called Earth Gods.
Yes, this one, actually, I put in here for comic relief.
Oh.
Or maybe not comic relief, because I do a lot with primitive images. And this is part of a primitive installation. So I really think of them more as fetishes. And they are reeds that have been painted and wrapped with dyed strips. Probably generated a lot of the other ideas. But it's called The Source. I wanted to have a feeling of it coming out of the background, but not knowing where it was coming from. And I wanted to have some kind of forest-like feeling to the background of it, but more sparse. Coming out and dropping flat down almost again as though it were a three-dimensional, powerful source.
Like it comes right up against the field of the painting surface.
Yes.
Yeah, I like that. I like also that it's transparent. How you can see the branches right through it. It seems like this source is undefined. It's coming out of nowhere, like you say.
Totally undefined.
Yeah.
As soon as I tried to define it, it became unimportant. And by not defining it, I felt it had more...
It's called fog.
Yes, and this too is paint on gesso board. And I had an exhibit at Penn State in March that had to do with images and words. And I have been writing quite a bit of poetry, and I did write a piece having to do with fog. This piece was not in the show in March, but it gave me that feeling of vulnerability, mystery, quiet, incredible quiet. And so I tried to get that onto a piece of a surface, and that's why I called it fog.
Wonderful. Well, I want to thank you very much for allowing me the time to come by and talk with you and record you for our internet audiences.
Internet audiences.
So, Barbara, thank you. Thank you very much.
Welcome. Thank you.